From the studio that ruined high school DxD and bought you pro-domestic abuse the anime, it's Higurashi Go! Y'all excited? Y'all happy? Were y'all expecting a train wreck? That's what we should have expected. And here we are, 24 episodes later. It's a goddamn train wreck. Hello everyone, good evening. I literally just finished Higurashi Go about 10 minutes ago and have decided to record the audio for a review. Mostly because I got locals tomorrow and, by the time I finish, it's better just get it done fresh. Anyways, no. We are here to talk about this show, and we are not here to have fun. Okay, we'll have a little fun, make some jokes, all that good shit. But I'm not here to, gush over something that's enjoyably bad like Noblesse. And that's a crying shame, because I really thought Higurashi had the potential to be a really entertainingly bad show around the time I realized it wasn't going to be very good. But you know what? No. They did it. Damn it, Studio Passion, you did it. You somehow succeeded in making a show that is so fucking confusing and incoherent to follow that I was just begging and pleading for a viable explanation as to what is really going on with anything, but is so fucking boring, I simultaneously just don't care. It's genuinely fascinating and kind of bizarre. But before we get into why that is, let us start with the beginning. And the beginning actually takes us to 20 some odd years ago when Higurashi came out. I believe it was a visual novel. And then it got an anime that, while obviously didn't get as huge as a lot of the big stuff that was really driving the anime boom of the turn of the century, this show did develop a very strong cult following. So a lot of people were excited when it was announced that the show was going to get a remake. And everyone got really hyped. And about 2 episodes in, we learned something. And that is, it's not a remake, it's a sequel. A sequel to a show from 20 years ago. And more importantly, the first part of this is not for legal streaming. So you have no natural means to watch the thing you are now watching a sequel to. Well, that can be okay, because so long as the show does a good job of getting new viewers, which will be the majority of people, up to speed, this can potentially work, and it is an interesting idea, especially because of the way the show kind of starts itself off. You see, the first 3 arcs of Higurashi Go are genuinely remakes of the first 3 arcs of the original. I haven't seen the original Higurashi, but I have heard enough about it over the years to know what the first 3 arcs are about and how they're different from this. So I can say with certainty that, yeah, those are remakes. I can't speak to the second half because people don't talk about it as much, but I can focus on comparing the first half to the second half. And because of this, the first half and the original have the same plot structure. We can basically give our synopsis as followed. The show follows this kid Keiichi as he moves out in the sticks, where he, of course, befriends 2 hot women, 2 cute little lollies, and they just kind of live their lives playing games and having fun. But turns out there's a dark secret behind this town. There's a mystery. There's darkness to be had, people with secrets of their own, things that will come to life in the way that mysterious towns tend to do when spooky stuff will happen. And from what I've seen of the original, while it looks fairly schlocky, I can understand why it's entertaining. There's just something so atmospheric about older anime, especially nowadays when everything can just be turned out digitally. There's something about the way just pen on paper and kind of that dirty, unclean, unkempt look kind of makes things feel scary. I can genuinely believe the original Higurashi has that sort of just creepy feel to it, and I think that's a big part of what brings people in. It also helps that when things do get scary, it is very violent and very just horrifying. This is where the new one fails and the first 3 arcs in turn fail. Because for starters, everything in this show is really clean and happy and friendly and fun looking. To the point where it's too much. It doesn't have like a lived-in feel like from what I've seen of the original, and that is lost. Now, that's a common problem in anime nowadays. I'm not necessarily blaming Studio Passion for this, and this looks better than a lot of their stuff. I'll give them credit. But if you can't understand like what atmosphere does for your show, then it's lost. And here's the thing, it also fails at being scary. All of the iconic Higurashi like gore and violence has more or less been removed from this. We never really see anything super bad or violent happening, and whenever we see the little glimpses of anything, it's played up as about as simple and non-threatening as possible. Now, images like, say, a dude beating a girl's head in with a baseball bat, someone having their fingernails removed, a small child being tied to a cross, is not necessarily image I yearn to look for, but does describing that sound a lot more memorable and by default kind of more interesting than anything that happened in this show at all? If you've seen it, you're probably agreeing with me. And what does the show choose to fill its then time with? Fairly just not interesting drama and boring lore, and there's just nothing scary or entertaining about it. When people defend this new version of the show online, I'm noticing a big chunk of the defense is it's interesting to see what's different and how that fits within fan theories for what's going on. And while to an extent I can respect that, what we're getting isn't entertaining. It's boring. I don't care. And don't say that, oh, this is because you didn't watch the original. It's the new one's job to get me to care. It cannot rely on just the appeal of the original. And this is where we then get to the second half. What I will say about the second half, it starts off much more strong and is a bit more interesting conceptually. They took a few weeks off in between the first half and second half. I don't know how far advanced they got episodes completed for this, but I'm going to take a shot in the dark and assume they used those few weeks to structure everything so it kind of would be more interesting. But then once again, this is even worse. Like, this ends up being even more boring. At least the first three arcs, I was kind of interested to see what happened, but like, no, I don't care about anything that happens in the second half, because the second half weirdly relies more on your knowledge of Higurashi lore. There are constant scenes that are just lifted from the original and are alternate timelines, and you're not given context. You're not given any real reason to care about any of these things because nothing ever amounts to anything. They're just boring and they make me much rather want to watch this show I've been avoiding for 20 years. The show gives you weird feelings. It's kind of strange. And so yeah, and then we get on to the final arc. And the one thing I will say about just the sheer, utter boring misery I've been seeing through, it's so miserable, like these last few episodes they've done, and so just like in bad taste and just a complete fucking mess. The thing I'll say is, not a lot of shows would attempt to make it, oh yeah, spoilers, you're not gonna watch this, no one fucking did. The thing to say is, not many shows would attempt to make an abused child the ultimate villain who's an evil, obsessed stalker nutcase. There's a reason they don't do that! By God, this is terrible! It's so incompetent and absolute trash. I don't know why I expected anything better from a studio that did those two travesties I brought up at the beginning, but like, I'll say this is definitely one of their more competent outings, as I don't think anything they've done has been well liked. But the thing is, if you followed it, you saw that on like every like anime site, this like just dropped in popularity. It did not resonate with a lot of people, except people who do get into fan theories and lore hunting. And if you had fun with that, more power to you. But this brings me to my ultimate theory about what happened with this show. I 100% believe this was actually supposed to be a remake. I 100% believe Studio Passion's idea is, we need new IP because we clearly like burnt High School DxD to the ground, so we'll try this. And so what they thought to do was, we'll make it more accessible and easier for people to watch. So we take out a lot of the gore, a lot of the violence, save that for just one or two occurrences each arc, and then like just kind of hope it'll just be successful from there. When word got out it was being remade, and like tension was rising and people had a certain expectation, they chickened out of this and tried to then fix it, but were too far along in production, so they added the sequel aspect to it. Some of you may think that this is a mean fan theory, but you know what? No, I think this is genuinely what happened, and because it resulted in what has honestly been one of the worst anime viewing experiences I've seen in a while. I don't know if this would be like number one on the 2021 worst list, because that's 9 months away, but the fact that I am thinking this could be up there for me is just a true showing that this show is dog shit. But tell me what you thought below. If you are someone who genuinely got into the lore and all that stuff, again, be happy. Explain to me why you like it. Just know that unless you are so deeply invested in this franchise, you're just waiting for another bite at the apple with it. It is not for you, and it is not for anybody. Go track down the original, risk getting a virus installed on your computer. And as always, click to like, click to subscribe, and join me, because we got Yashahime next to talk about. ReZero's coming up. I swear, none of them will be as negative as this.